Peter Novak, who was the location manager in America, was able to find some people who were interested in taking the whole of actually the freeway set.
I think there's ultimately 15,000 tons worth of material that went into building the freeway set, the park set, and the cave set. We are working with a company out of San Diego, which basically is going to reuse everything.
They put it on the back of trucks, and they send it down to Mexico, and I believe they're using it for low-cost housing.
It basically costs the same to dismantle it as it does to throw it in the trash. So it makes more sense to get recycled.
They were able to pull apart the temple, and they took all the skin, all the plaster off the front of that. They chipped up all of the polystyrene, I believe.
We have a giant set made of this. The stuff is going to be skinned, cut into squares, and be used for insulation. I'd have to say that I don't think there's anything that's ever been undertaken on this size and actually find a home for this much material. The studio supported it. The production supported it. It's hard to even believe it all would wind up in the trash. We have enough material to frame and side 150 homes. It's the right thing to do.
Every story you've ever heard about vampires, werewolves, or aliens is the system assimilating some program that's doing something they're not supposed to be doing.
Why?
Well, there are reasons, but usually a program chooses exile when it faces deletion.
The Merovingian is a lineage of kings in France. The story has it that the Merovingian kings, descending from a king called Merové, hence the name, are descendants of Christ himself. The blood of Christ was in fact his lineage, his child, carried by Mary Magdalene, and who came to France. The people who are still nowadays in real life society descending from those Merovingian families do believe that they can't be more aristocratic because they descend from Christ.
Bring me the eyes of the oracle, and I will give you back your savior.
It's a very, very old program. He's one of the oldest and meanest programs in the Matrix. He's really sort of one of the kings of the underworld, a personification of all forms of indulgence. And that reveals, obviously, a lot about him and his philosophy. His philosophy is causality, and basically that is the philosophy of the entire machine world, of the entire Matrix. Basically, I think he's bored. He is so much inside the system, he has understood the system completely. And like his wife, he feeds on human emotions.
And action.
You can either run to the restaurant and tell my husband what I have done, or you can stay there and die.
My character in the film is Persephone. She's very elegant, very sophisticated. Persephone, in the Greek mythology, was the daughter of the king of the gods, Zeus, and the goddess of fertility, Demeter. And she was kidnapped by the king of the underworld, Hades, to be his queen. I mean, Persephone is not human, but she wants to feel human emotions. She's like a vampire. Instead of sucking blood, she sucks emotions and feelings from human beings. In English, you say, clothes don't make the man. For Persephone, is the contrary, because the way how she dresses reveals a lot about who she is and about her personality. For me, Matrix is much more than an action movie. It's a story about love, it's a philosophy of life.
Now you know why this man looks like he does, because he sniffs water through his nose.
Which must be very uncomfortable.
Bless him.
Characters are so strong, but you don't need to have that many words. It's all visual with these guys.
Once your clothes are on and adorn yourself in those sunglasses, this whole effect is you can't help but be bad or be cool.
What our characters do, we kill.
Yeah, we just have a damn good time within the Matrix. We maim, murder, kill him. The Merovingian.
He's the brain, we're the brawns.
So if he wants someone wasted, we'll go and waste them with efficiency.
Yes. And pleasure.
And pleasure. Oh yeah, we enjoy it at the same time.
I think the big emphasis on getting the part was our martial arts capabilities. We've both got extensive experience in martial arts and we both enjoy it.
It's gonna hurt. Uh-huh.
This is a madly physical film, you know. I mean, hats off to the guys, you know, like Keanu and Carrie Ann and Lawrence, you know, they put themselves through physical hell to get the ability and the martial arts experience they have, and we've been doing it for 16 years, so it's... And we find it hard.
Oh, Dad, I'm out of here. Shit! That was good. We've been lazing around within the Matrix frame for God knows how long, enjoying ourselves, and then, you know, this big moment comes up, the one's there, Morpheus is there, Trinity's there, the Keymaker. This is what we've been waiting for. This is our ultimate goal, is to have this confrontation. And,
Oh, didn't you go on?
Sorry. Obviously, I'll be stopping. Well, one of us has got to be the intelligent one.
Yeah, it's fair play. Yeah.
And he will kick my butt to destroy him. Right? You do. As a matter of fact, we're actually... Because if you don't, you're in big... I'm in big trouble. But as a matter of fact, you know, we will make a good comedy. The Keymaker and Ancient Jones.
I'm Randall Dick Kim, and I play the Keymaker. I help the heroes. Well, I flew out to Los Angeles and auditioned for the brothers.
And action.
And I guess they liked what they saw.
Can't wait to see those days.
It was thoroughly exciting. I was jumping around the apartment. It's a brilliant set. Made my character. In many respects, made my character. It gave him a history. I mean, the imagination, the craftsmanship that went into the making of this little cell. The minute I saw it, I felt at home. I wanted to go and lay in my little bedding over there, turn on the faucet, wash my hands, you know, work this machine. It's brilliantly conceived and executed.
Action.
Well, every time I've had to do that scene, you meditate on mortality. The question about this one is, how does an old program die? What makes it different than a human dying? It's so much fun. I wish everybody could do it. I can't express the joy of it. Exhilarating. I never dreamed that in my latter years I would be doing something like this. I felt like a little kid having a big, huge adventure. It's a great honor and privilege to be a part of this modern epic.
Papa, the train! My name is Tanvir Atwa. I'm playing Sati. I was in the scene where Colin was opening the door and bad guys were coming both ways. The line that I'm supposed to say is, I'm scared, Seraph. That's my line. I'm in the train station and I help this boy find the Matrix. His name's Neo. Good morning. He wants to go to the Matrix, but the train man doesn't let him get on the train because you have to take a train to go to the Matrix. And this is the train station. That's one of my lines.
I guess for the central characters, especially Neo, for him to get from one world to this other world, he has to go through the train man.
Down here, I make the rules. Down here, I make the threats. Down here, I'm God.
kind of like the ferryman crossing the River Styx. But the train man is not necessarily a very cooperative person. The stakes in this world are quite high. You know, there's drama all the time.
It's been a long day.
Are you still on day 5?
I love the sort of the abstract nature of these films. I love the fantasy nature of these films. They deal with our psyche and the fears, etc., that we have in the real world. And I think that the Matrix films express that just as the Mad Max films did, just as even, I guess, the Star Wars films. In order to make certain psychological journeys, we need these films.
Surprise!
We made, I don't know, like hundreds of rubber weapons. And we just like had to keep on churning them out because every time someone would pick up a sword, they'd smash them. And all these things were molded, painted. They were quite complicated shapes.
In Chinese, we don't have those kind of weapons. So it's different, Chinese weapon and Western weapons.
Most of these weapons they just found out of books and copied out of books, out of medieval books and history books.
These things are actually placed exactly in accordance with the choreography of the fight.
We make a lot of mistakes in this fight. We end up killing each other.
What we call bottle brush with attitude.
Commonly referred to as Tiger's toothpick. Now uses this towards the end of the fight and sort of sticks it into some guy's head.
This is one of the first weapons to get broken. Brad actually leaps over the railing. Keanu kicks him right in the chest here, snaps the blade and knocks him out. Head gets bolted on this end, so and so, and take the head off onto the next breakaway pole, and so on and so forth till they get the shot.
One particular part of the fight now, he grabs this particular sword, and this ends up going through one of the bad guys who comes tumbling through this balustrade and hits the floor.
Some swords don't quite go the distance, as you can see. This one here, that Brad wears, which they wear under their costume.
I don't know if it was something I ate, but I got a huge stomachache.
It's got to remain light, but yet still be fully retractable for Keanu to use. See, this one's actually gone through set, so it's getting a bit old.
Action!
Three-pronged sword, probably the most fixed weapon that I have. Fake rubber size that Marcus uses. These are genuine steel ones, which are what the other ones are moulded off. This is actually quite heavy, very dangerous. We take a copy of that, put a carbon fibre centre in it or a steel centre, and a rubber mould, which the painters then do up and make look beautiful. The soft shield's been surprisingly durable. Puts the shield in front of him, hits him with the side through there. There's a plug that you would put back into it. Painters would touch it back up again, take it back onto set. The standard trident, which they use to fight with, all rubber tipped, so it can't hurt people too much. One of the boys gets stabbed. With this one, a rig like such, which is worn around the belly. We'll go onto it, pole goes on the end, back to lying on ground dead.
Take off the...
It's all the fake blood.
Actually, the pipe is actually
Really
stuck in
gross.
me. That's how we do it on the Matrix. Nothing,
Same way for us.
just half-assed.
real.
Don't look at me like a tiger.
I was 8 years old. I studied martial arts 20 years, almost like all my life. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Charlie Andrews. Yeah, a lot of movies. They're all fun, especially Charlie Andrews. Yeah, you're working with the three girls all the time. It's fun.
Tiger's on the first Matrix with us, and he's actual part of our wire team that puts us down and stuff.
He doesn't do anything wrong. He's like the fastest, the strongest, the quickest. He jumps the highest. Best in choreography. He's just, you're the man, Tiger. Man. You are the man.
X. I just eat X. Number one. Two. Have to eat this. I was training for weapons for like many years, over 10 years. Stunt life, most people it's a little hard. In Hollywood, stuntman is good job. But not in Hong Kong.
Shoot that! Shoot that! Shoot that! They have to shoot everything in slow motion just to see your moves.
Connect champion of the decade.
Our first shot is reaction. Okay, punch in the face. I just teach piano. We've been training together for like almost like 2 years, and I teach a lot of movie stars. And piano is the one work the most harder.
Want me to go lower? You can go lower with the sword.
It's good. We have a good connection. We have 6 guys. Yeah, I'm the last one to die. And all the dialogue is For acting, it was like, if they want me, okay, acting, I do it, but I think it's just for fun. I don't have a name. My name is Fighter 2.
Number 1, Tiger Chen is the best martial artist stuntman on the planet. I love you. Did I tell you I love you?
Yeah, I know.
I love you.
Yeah, we love each other.
Yes. There's a lot of love around here. A lot of love.
Cut.
What I like in the Merovingian is that it's a certain vulgarity. I love the fact that he goes for things that are a little too decorative. His house, the chateau, is really over the top. I've always wanted to come and check the sets before to see how much of a king he was, how grand he was.
We looked at all the big palaces in Europe. Like, actually most of this comes from the Hermitage. So it's over the top where they had lots of money to spend and just gild everything and make everything shiny and glisten.
We have in our culture, in our French culture, we have the immediate memory of amazingly grand places like Versailles, or the king's castles. I mean, those images are very present to our minds all the time, so that we can trigger them very easily.
So this is the Merovingian Chateau upper hallway. The designing of this was lots of references to old chateaux in Europe, looking at things like the Versailles Hall of Mirrors. Initially, it didn't seem like it needed to be very large, but these are 9 metres wide. It just kept on getting larger and larger in the detailing of all the mouldings and how we wanted it to look like marble. Also, we did research on the paintings that would look really good up on the walls and got clearances for these fantastic paintings, and they're just huge colour photocopies that we then got our set finishing department to age down to look more realistic, those little tricks of the trade. So this is a set where there's a lot more weapons. It's going back to that idea of there being warriors, Merovingian. So it's filled with weapons that are from every country of every era. That's the idea that we're trying to push right through the chateau. The actual chateau that we're filming at for the front is in the Loire Valley, and it doesn't really have a nice back door, so we had to create our own. They've taped on grout lines. It's a tape here to create all these grout lines, and then they've got a slurry of plaster which they've pushed across, and then probably another coat so that we can try and get this texture into it. And they've pulled off the tape and then got in there with extra bits to try and make it look like it's much more aged.
The flashiness of the places that he decides to surround himself with says a lot about who he is.
Statues, you'll notice that they're all the same person, and those are all the images of the Merovingian. They're all his own likeness, or they're identical. So that's another sign of his egomaniacal control. No Venuses, no Mars, it's all him.
He has quite strong, vulgar tastes, flash, he likes everything that shines. He's very much a Leo somehow, which I am too.
This mural is a symbol of the Matrix, but in sort of a Renaissance or medieval theme. This is medieval times, and there's the rest of us. This is all us humans on Earth battling it out. And then above that, we've got heaven with the angels. But the angels aren't really just angels. The angels are actually manipulating what's going on Earth. And who's at the center of heaven but Merv himself? So it's all about him. Again, he's controlling everything that's going on in heaven and everything that's happening on Earth. So this is another analogy for the Matrix, where we all think that we're in control of what's going on here on Earth, but actually there's a whole other system in place where we're being manipulated. We looked at a lot of marble floors, a lot of floors in Venice, and again, just throughout the classic palaces of Europe, because that's the imagery that we as Westerners, that's where our heritage comes from, to think of. Those are the people who've been ruling us all this time. And that's what we're working on now, is designing a rubber floor so that the stunt guys can fall on that, but that it still looks like marble. So we're about to unroll the marble on top of the rubber. Or the vinyl marble on top of the rubber, on top of the wood marble.
So do you want to just bring that one back so that it will line up with this line here?
So no, don't get too carried away, because I'll center them up over there.
And we've got to shoot it in sequence, because as they go through and they damage everything, we can't really put it all back together. So it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like in the end.
If I had imagined where he would be reigning, I would have completely agreed with the places that I have found.
The chateau was one of the more graceful fights, which sort of fitted the Merovingian in some way, given the nature of his character.
The fight that I witnessed, took almost 3 weeks to complete.
It was all choreographed on the floor. Then we did individual pieces on the floor up in the fight gym. Then they built the set. Then we had to rearrange the fight for the set. And then we had to rearrange the set for the fight. It went on for months.
How about the lipstick you're still wearing?
There's no lipstick? Lipstick? What do you mean lipstick? Is that on?
Here we go.
This is the Merovingian chateau, and this is his foyer and what we call the Great Hall.
Everything in this room is meant to break.
There is a perfecting of oneself as an actor that goes through certain knowledges like movement, fighting, and you can tell that Keanu enjoys very much that process.
Oh man,
All right,
movie kung fu man.
See, this is where it gets fun.
Just step on this.
In this scene, Neo is confronted by our Merovingian. And we just auditioned a bunch of stuntmen and got the best guys we could find with the weapons to go against Keanu. Dave Leach, Wusan Elam, Chen Hu, Marcus Young, and Brad Martin.
We're going again for me. I'm gonna get it on this one. Is that better?
I'm not going to say all the stunt people were great actors. This particular thing was a lot of movement, and it was perfect for them. There was no reason to put an actor in there.
Is your fight in the chateau with mostly is it hand combat or?
I've got a staff most of the time.
teamwork that is involved is fantastic to observe.
Are you okay? Dude, see what you did?
They all start off by shooting Keanu and using his will as the one. He stops all the bullets.
Yeah, when you hit it, instead of catch it with your fingertips, hit it with the palm of your hand. So you're up here, just go.
Like that.
That's it.
Okay, here we go.
You know your predecessors had much more respect.
You mind that quick hand draw?
From there, we just kind of escalate once Keanu backflips up to the railing here. He comes back down, he arms himself with size. And if you look up into our rigging up here, we've got about 33 wires up there for approximately 27 different wire gags, all within this one scene.
It's like theater. You have the people in the light doing the magic, and you have the people in the darkness without whom it is impossible to achieve.
No comment, no comment.
This part is like a more traditional Chinese style, more fly, which is the brothers one, the one that a lot of people fly in air. There.
The guys that are the pullers that are on the ropes are all martial artists that know the choreography, and they know who the actors are and how much impact they can take.
Tiger kills Marcus. He kills me. Marcus kills Usan. Marcus, you kill a lot of people, man.
I came at Keanu with this one strike. That's all it took. I was finished.
Usan got the big ball and chain, big special effects Nerf one right in the side of the head.
Do you want to thicken it up a little bit with
It's a bit heavy.
or something?
Yeah. I've got some thick blood here.
He's got a little thing on his cheek. Got some spinach on your tooth there.
You a toothpick, man?
Could hardly feel it, huh?
Yeah, barely felt it. All 17 times.
It's good just to do a bunch of fighting in camera, and it's, you know, there is also like a sort of boyish charm, like impaling people or smashing them through a statue or throwing them down the stairs or, you know, pinning them to a wall or hitting them over the head with a shield.
Всех нас привели сюда вы, мистер Андерсон, и мы должны забрать у вас то, что вы забрали у нас.
Hi, this is John Gaeta. What we're going to be looking at now is the anatomy of a burly brawl shot. We like to call it the drop-down shot. In the year 2000, Steve Skrosh drew these boards to illustrate the beginning of what we would consider the final act in this three-act fight. We begin in a God's eye view, and we spiral down to something that graphically emulated a hurricane. Originally, the hurricane idea was not as evident. Wu Ping and us on stage realized that the fight could potentially be interesting if it had the master revolving sort of circle around Neo. And what you're seeing here is the capture for Neo and his immediate adversaries. These would be sophisticated choreographed pieces that Wu Ping and the Hong Kong team would work out. There would be like hundreds of these captures to choose from, creating a vast library which could be erector-setted, if you will, by the layout team with the computer graphics side of this. The UCAP process is incredible when it's being fully realized, as we'll see later on the Super Punch. The part of the process that involves getting the expression performance is perhaps the most complex, in which the actor needs to, in a somewhat restrained situation, provide an emotional sort of facial expression which is captured and processed and assigned on an individual basis. For some time we were speculating whether we wanted to try any scenes with articulate speech in close-up shots with CG humans, and there were discussions that I was having with Larry and Andy about possibly taking the shot where Smith says more and making that fully virtual. But, you know, as applied strictly for action beats, it was not necessary to apply articulate speech. However, the technology is there. So layer one, primary action, would be Keanu Reeves and at times Chad confronting the 8 stuntmen. There is a circle around this circle, which will contain many more men, that will be attempting to gain access to the fight. With the virtual depiction of a fight like this, there is no reason why not to have absolute contact. In the case of this scene, the whole point is that you can actually show the impact in its full effect. So we have the fellas dressed in body armor underneath their mocap suits so that Keanu or Chad can smash them with full force. Okay, so here we are beginning to create the preliminary versions of the virtual set. We're doing this so that we have a much better idea of scale. If we take a look at this scene, we can see how men are coming into and out of this fight from a layer just beyond the immediate foreground circle. Some hits could be the product of a Hugo Weaving running entry, a stuntman hit and collision, and then an animated extension because the Smith needed to travel quite a distance. There was a whole slew of terms from home runs to grounders and line drives that the bros would apply so we would understand the sort of severity of the hit and the distance of the hit. At this point you can see the design of the vortex starting to come into play. It was considered many ways almost a yin-yang type of graphic in that there would be equal numbers coming from either side and creating the type of symmetry that the Wachowski brothers love and apply so much in many of their frames. Based on our original test in 2000, we were going to have guys jumping from windows and going through windows. The other attribute about the test, which is fascinating, which we did not pursue as much, was a much more hyperactive camera that was at times quite more attached to Neo's periphery. Here is the final version at long last. This is a good shot for illustrating the whole process. In terms of a wide to macro view of the process, this one pretty much shows you the whole thing.
Chad Stahelski has so much experience with wire work, who is a professional kung fu fighter, who has been, an exceptional stuntman for 8-10 years. I mean, He's really been through all of the elements that this picture asks.
First and foremost, I'm Keanu Reeves' stunt double. Also in charge of the training facility to make sure the Hong Kong guys get what they need, a kind of liaison between them and the stunt department. Also kind of in charge of the martial arts stunt work, like setting up our rigging, making sure that the stunt aspect of the fight scenes go well. Kind of the assistant stunt coordinator to R.A. R.A. Rondell, he's like the head guy.
Chad is the head of this fight department as far as I'm concerned. I'm out of bounds. I'm a guest on his set.
Chad seems to hit a lot of people. A lot of the people here have a lot of good things to say about him, but he really hits a lot of people.
We've all had a few knee problems. I had like 2 knee surgeries, 2 shoulder surgeries, busted my ankle, busted my hand. A lot of bruises. Mostly on this show, it's a lot of bruises.
Chad works harder than anybody I know. He's the first one in the morning, he's the last one training at night, he's the one training on the weekends, he's the one who's the motivator.
My guys are tired. Look at him, this guy's asleep. This one still doesn't know what job he's on. This one can't remember his name.
He keeps his crew working day in and day out, and it shows in his work.
I just want you to pay attention on the tax department. He's the most rich stuntman in America. The tax department pay attention.
Is it all in good hands with Chad? Good answer.
Yeah, you couldn't be in better hands.
我自己做導演嘅途徑咧，就從舞師做起嘅，即係從舞師，即係我自細跟我爸爸練功啊，練功，跟住我爸帶我哋入電影圈做舞師，跟住做到3、4年之後就做指導啦，做到差唔多6、7年到啦，就開始做導演啦。大概拍邊啲戲我就唔記得咗咁多啦，大概又應該過去都有最多係20零30部戲到啦。呢同 Andy 兄弟睇咩戲接觸我就唔係好清楚啦。但係我同佢接觸咗之後，我覺得我拍嘅戲咧，佢係咪好似睇過晒咁樣，好似好熟，即係香港片嘅動作咁樣，即係佢好了解我哋香港嗰啲動作啊，同埋。每個人都有佢嘅擅長，我先至會揾嘅。每個人嘅擅長，每個人都有一樣嘢擅長嘅。
These guys on this team, they've been in some of the biggest films and so many of the greatest martial arts films ever seen. You look at these faces one by one and learn their names, you will find them blanketed through the recent history of Hong Kong action films.
其實長人佢本身設計啲小嘢啊，嗰啲小動作佢係好好嘅，好似阿弟弟啊，同埋阿華仔啊，佢自己本身上位啊，即係嗰個感覺好好嘅。老恩咧嗰啲拳就嗰啲中國拳術好好嘅，陳虎嗰啲武術底好好嘅，迪安嗰啲又係即係讀啲嘢都即係都幾全面嘅，所以每個人有每個人嘅作用嘅，即係泰阿財個拉威也拉得好準嘅，即係我每個人嘅工作量啊都有佢嘅特色喺度嘅。都係睇劇本每場動作嘅劇情需要啦，即係呢個劇情需要如果係打好多個人嘅，我就應該開始設計我點樣打好多人，點樣啲手腳密啲啊，同埋唔可以俾啲人停啊，同埋單對單嘅動作，我哋點樣設計得佢有啲特色，有啲漂亮嘅招數啊，咁即係每場咧都因劇本而設計嘅，同埋。同導演溝通完之後，再改良再設計咁咯。佢呢個琴晚佢我可以快啲，佢慢唔係你快，佢得慢啊！你梗係快得，佢啲我覺得嗰場打好多個 Smith 嗰場，同埋兵器嗰兩場，柏飛同埋柒濤嗰場，呢兩場係最難嘅。 因為Piano 啊同佢從來未曾試過打過中國兵器嘅，即係要由佢冇一啲都冇底，一啲都唔識嘅，要訓練到佢打得似模似樣咧，嗰個比較難咧。同埋拍揮嗰度咧，一個人打咁多人咧，即係喺 Piano 嚟講，又係從來未試過嘅。即係我要打到好，即係啲拳腳好密，啪好密，邊嚟邊去打邊啊！即係呢兩場比較難啲啦。因為佢時間到咗啦，再開始構思啊，都係導演俾個概念俾我哋，即係我先根據導演嘅概念嚟構思嘅。但係構思嗰時候都幾有難度嘅，因為一個 Hugo 變咗成幾十個 Hugo， 一個人打幾十個。嗰種拳腳速度啊，同埋嗰種高難度閃啊，即係一路構思，即係嗰場戲我睇我構思得比較耐咗少少嘅，即係起碼構思咗有1個月有冇啊？應該有啊，難度比較高啲啊！跟住現場拍完仲要拍 motion capture 接落去啊嘛，即係比較係難啲嘅嘢啦，即係一打咁多人嘅要手腳好密先得，即係我又唔想等嗰啲。攝影夫有一個喺度等啊，又唔想即係安排呢個動作好密、好節奏好緊湊，冇人冇感覺，冇人喺度等招嘅。3、2、1 action！ Motion capture 對我嚟講就係好新啊，即係我都係好似第一次去拍呢啲嘢，除咗Matrix 第一集就係有少少。今日都6部嘅人睇呢集先 motion capture， 即係我覺得好新啦。即係唯一我覺得好嘅地方咧，就覺得即係我哋好多嘢現場我哋拍唔到嘅，即係做唔到嗰種感覺嘅，喺 motion capture 可以做到出嚟。即係嗰啲反應、嗰啲拳腳、嗰啲力啊、嗰啲啊點樣翻、點樣飛啊，喺 motion capture 做得好過喺現場做嘅。1、2、3。一插就咁去啦嘛，仲要望一望，仲望一望。即係我接到呢場戲之後咧，我覺得以 Piano 嚟打兵器咧，打一樣嘢啊，我覺得係唔夠痛快，即係唔夠變化嘅，所以我設計佢好多變化。多打幾樣嘢，即係不斷咁樣換兵器啊，不斷譬如開始打西打甩咗又換支棍棍甩咗換把短劍換長劍換到雙棍打，即係我覺得個層次一路咁變化落去咧，個動作兵器動作個感覺唔會好悶，即係一路有變化，又去睇又去睇，一路轉變兵器覺得。觀眾睇落覺得會新鮮啦，即係我自己嘅構想係咁去嘅。我覺得即係多變化咧，就等於多趣味。即係我哋由底下打到上樓梯，再打上2樓，再打上睇下，即係變咗多變化就多啲趣味啦。我覺得係趣味多咗好多嘅，即係因為有變化先有趣味啊嘛。即係上一場佢打個 agent 係到 last end 打就係單手打。可以好輕鬆咁擋咗嗰個 Asian 啲拳腳嘅。呢集咧我就呢度咧啲 upgrade 顧名思義 upgrade， 所以我想秉承翻上集單手擋，但係對方咧 upgrade 咗嘅，可以擋到佢擋到呢度嘅拳同揸到嘅拳，就呢度咧原來都 upgrade 咗嘅，即係好快化解嗰啲拳腳，打開佢，同埋有啲。利用有啲高難度腳法啦，即係捉住條刺旋轉踢點樣到後踢嗰啲，加強咗佢嗰啲高難度嘅動作同埋新穎啲嘅動作，俾佢嚟表達呢場戲咧。
哇！我快呀
又仲好啲嘅就係加強出型啦，就會好啲啦。同埋有乜嘢唔同咧？呢個同上集梗係絕對有啲唔同噶啦。即係起碼呢個我哋設計佢用電單車嘅頭盔嚟打，同埋我哋仲設計另外一種新嘅腳法喺 喺後邊踢上去嘅，即係同上大冚唪唥都係有分別嘅。個頭盔打得都好有 power， 好勁嘅啫。
You're strong enough, yeah. Watch the target, yeah. That feels good because you're locking. Yeah.
即係攞嚟時講，即每場戲每部戲嘅動作都唔同嘅。總之成場咧，即係喺個貨櫃車頂打咧，即係我個構想整個構想都係喺危險動作過嚟嚟構想。個車速行緊，即係我點樣打去車邊啊？點樣拉車邊啊？點樣再好難咁翻上去啊？打到幾乎跌落車啊！即係全部喺圍繞住係車行嗰種速度同埋我哋盡量俾少少好似好危險嘅動作落去嚟到增加嗰個喺車頂打嗰種特色咧。太大步啦 ！Too much? Okay. 其實中意做導演，仲做作導演都係即係一種興趣嚟嘅，但兩樣都比較中意做導演多啲。不過做導演係辛苦好多，由頭到尾辛苦好多。做動作導演就淨係專心設計動作點樣設計啲新嘅動作有乜高難度動作設計落去就專心啫。但係做導演咧就要顧好多嘢，顧嗰啲文戲顧成場戲嘅包裝顧劇本好多嘢啦。就兩樣嘢咧就同我導演輕鬆啲，淨係做導演咧就辛苦啲。但係我都興趣做導演多啲。
There were more movements in this one particular fight than there are in the whole of the first Matrix. It might actually be double. So that's a good place to start.
It's Keanu fighting 100 versions of Hugo. But the boys have created and choreographed a sequence that is so intricate and so involved.
In the Burly Brawl, you see Neo being more and more challenged so that he has to raise his level of skill to combat the opposite will. Smith, my character, has no resolution, cannot conquer the opposite will, because in that moment there's no understanding of that, of how to do it physically. So he escapes.
What's really cool is that the scene in itself has 3 acts. The first act has about 8 Smiths versus Neo. The second act is up around 25, and then the third act is up to 80 Smiths in the park at once. Along the way, we start with stunt doubles and somewhat conservative Hong Kong style block-offs and quick cuts everywhere. Then as we get to the second act, where there's 25 men, there'll be like a mixture of CG Smiths and head replacements and doubles going on all at the same time. In the third act, where there's up to 80 men, this will be all virtual, all computer graphics, including Neo.
John came to us with storyboards for the Burly Brawl concept at the time, and goes through it with us and says, look, so we've got these shots in Matrix Reloaded that are going to have Keanu doing Kung Fu against Agent Smith. And John goes, so yeah, there's a couple of them. Well, maybe more than a couple, 5, 6, 7. So we start going, well, I guess we'll have to like shoot, lock off the camera and shoot multiple passes. And he goes, no, you're not quite getting it. It's more than 6 or 7. It's kind of 100, maybe 200, maybe 300 in one shot. Oh, okay. Huh. And then he says, yeah, and kind of bullet time as well.
Just like the last film, the brothers have got the support to push for very difficult things.
You don't want to expose the directors to too much risk. It's kind of different with Larry and Andy. Larry and Andy will take risks. And instead of us going, well, we really want to do this, it was more, you guys have got to do this. You've got to work it out. We don't care if you say it's really hard. We want to support you, but you've got to be able to do it.
At least half of the creativity in doing something like that is in planning the fight. So Larry and Andy and Wu Ping worked out the fight. I mean, Wu Ping choreographed it, ran it through Larry and Andy. They gave their additions to it. And then Wu Ping and his guys recorded themselves doing all the moves. And then I cut the fight together.
We didn't pre-plan the photography, and the procedure for that was to figure out, by way of Wu Ping's guys, what amazing feats Neo was going to do, figure out what percentage of that was actually capturable, and or a percentage of capture plus animation extensions, and some was just pure animation.
John managed to get some research funding from Larry and Andy and the studio, and we set off doing a test.
3, 2, 1, action!
We're doing this test August 14th, 15th, and 16th, year 2000. This is our first proof of concept on this idea. We've been running universal capture tests to create the synthetic face and form of Keanu for the last month and a half. Our big goal is by October, November to start having a representation of all these pieces in a virtual environment. These dudes obviously are Wu Ping's mind-blowing martial arts team. They're wearing all these highly reflective balls, and these balls are being read by these cameras up here in a procedure known as motion capture. 120 times a second they are flashing light. It looks like they're constant, but they're not. They're really strobing. And the balls, being super reflective, kick back every time they're being flashed. And we take the data and we begin to calculate where all of the little markers on their bodies are. We have taken the motion of one of the best martial artists in the world, and we have put it inside the form of Neo. So now we have a very capable Keanu Reeves kicking the living shit out of many dudes at once. Everything in the frame is 100% computer generated, the background, all the characters. Our methods completely surround three-dimensionally recording performance and then editing a lot of performances together into a longer performance. All we're really after is extending very difficult actions and viewing that from any angle in a way that just keeps the camera running longer instead of all these brief little cuts.
The park set had to accommodate a large fight where there were going to be several hundred people, I suppose. It's the sort of place where people once had lived and played, and kids grew up in the playground there and had a great time, and then kind of the world had moved on and just left this void.
If you can imagine maybe like a 20, 25-story tenement park, it was like probably twice the size of an average soundstage.
One of the wonderful things is that Owen puts so much detail into every set he builds that it can only make our visual effects look better. It's just really great. And we came in and we took 2,000 stills of the set as the initial pass to help us digitize every little thing from every window to every tree to the playground set. It's pretty much the only way to capture something as lush and detailed as Owen's set.
And we were able to use those same photographs with all the same painting and texture and detail and variation that Owen had put in there, bring it into the digital world, create these completely virtual camera moves that you never even think that wasn't real because it was sourced from the real set.
It is definitely one of our favorite sets. We go above it, around it, and we travel a lot.
Let's shoot, man.
Every afternoon for 9 weeks, me and 12 stuntmen on the floor went through a 5.5-minute routine. I believe I had over 500 moves.
Each Smith will attack Neo and perhaps lay 3 punches or 2 punches and a kick on Neo and then be dispatched with. They figured ultimately it was easier for me to just learn each move on the day. I actually got to know the first 10 or 15 Smith's moves, but ultimately on the day they changed anyway. So I really was learning the fight as they would in Hong Kong, which was just on the day.
All the Agent Smith doubles were pretty much auditioned. We auditioned about 50 guys, acrobats, gymnasts, martial art guys, regular stunt guys. Put them through about 4 months of training to mimic the actor Hugo Weaving, as well as learn the fight choreography and develop the skills they're going to need for this.
They have expertise in different areas. Some are acrobats, some are martial artists, some can do performances, you know, that you would only get in a circus.
Are they tough guys? They're tough guys with soft hearts, how's that?
There were Smith lessons where I'd watch them run and then I'd watch them walk and then so I kind of gave them a few pointers, but it wasn't more than a couple of lessons really.
When you see the scenes, you gotta remember that's the real Hugo mixed in with like 12 of the best martial arts stunt guys around.
And action!
And he's holding his own pretty well. No computers. No computers, real deal stuff. John Gaeta takes over and does his multi-passes and composite shots to really amplify the amount of people we have.
I'm totally, absolutely ready for the juggernaut of multi-pass mayhem that is being inflicted upon me by the very well-written prose of the Wachowski brothers. Remember, it's the writers that invite the technological onslaught that you may see.
Right now what we've got here is a motion control setup. It allows us to put multiple Smiths into the scene without having to use the computer graphics technology. So this rig is completely repeatable. Every time the camera goes past, we can get it to do the same move time and time again.
We'd put one Hugo there, film him, and then we'd take the camera back, and then we'd put another Hugo there and we'd film him again. So it looked initially like you would see everyone repeated was Hugo.
By the end of the sequence, there's like 80-odd Agent Smiths.
The complicated thing was working out how we were going to shoot that many Smiths fighting Keanu all at once.
There are certain parts of the sequences that we had to create that we had to map Keanu's face or Hugo's face, and we had to do things with their bodies and their look that are not real.
So the challenge was, how do you generate synthetic humans? And we thought the hardest thing would be generating a human face that had the right expressions. So we built a system that we use multiple high-def cameras, use them to shoot an actor, and then we can reconstruct that actor's facial performance. Every little muscle movement, every mouth movement, eye movement, teeth movement, all of that can be reconstructed so that we can then fly around that with a virtual camera. So we can then stick that onto a live person's body or onto a synthetic body.
The problem with working on actual humans is they're so recognizable. You look at humans every day, you're very unforgiving when you see CG hair or a CG face or any of those things.
It would take an animator who was basically the Picasso of his time to actually completely freehand a performance like that.
We basically used those facial performances and we've assigned different performances on every Smith. So we had this whole process of assigning different performances to the different Smiths. So they all do different things.
The bullet time shot in the first movie was a little more practical. The action was shot from a bunch of still cameras. We're sort of recreating, Keanu and recreating Hugo so that we can basically put the camera anywhere and do anything. The idea was that the camera is always traveling at the same speed, it's just the motion is slowed down.
No frozen motion, that was the mid-90s. We wore different clothes back then.
It's sort of this blend between, use mocap where the mocap works and where the mocap doesn't work, where it's just doing something that's just not capturable or just like superhuman, then that's where the hand animation has to pick up. Dynamic simulation is virtual crash test dummies that you can just smack around and they'll react similar to how a human would react if he was smacked by a bull. You can give it an animation and then hit it with a ball and it'll react to the ball but try and maintain the existing animation that you have on it. In this case, basically everyone who gets hit by a pole was a dynamic simulation. As the shots get more developed, we add more and more Smiths, and once the animation's final, it can get passed to the cloth department.
We worked very closely with modeling, with rigging, the animators, because we took inputs from all of those, and cloth was essentially sort of a hub.
All the clothing that you see is the way we actually get it to look so real is we get a cloth sample for each one of the characters, whether it's this piece of the suit, piece of Neo's coat, whatever, and we basically put it through this device that shoots it from many different angles, and it gives us an approximation of how a particular material reacts to light and different camera angles. Then we put that into the computer system, and bingo, we get a realistic looking piece of cloth.
The brothers, they wanted to really have a lot of interaction with Neo's cassock, with his personality, or sort of have a connection with that. Once they were done with shooting, they cleaned them up and then they sent it to us so that we would be able to get a look and feel of the weight of it, as well as how it wrinkled and bent, and as well as try to see how well it fit, and little details like, how many snaps were on there, and how far away the buttons are from the collar. So there was a lot of attention paid to this and Agent Smith's outfit.
Both the animation and the cloth get passed to the color and lighting department, and they're the guys that, render it and make it look so real.
We spend a lot of time developing new image-based lighting techniques. We have the ability of extracting every single light in the set so that it looks it's completely mathematically represented in our computer graphics scenes.
One of the big things that makes any computer-generated object look the way it looks is the way in which the light in an environment plays on it.
If we're ever adding a computer-generated component, we have to be able to know exactly how Bill set his lights. So we use the chrome ball that's over there to tell us where everything was and how bright it was.
Because it's a sphere and because it's chromed or mirrored, it actually reflects the entire environment. So by taking a picture of a chrome ball, you've actually taken a picture of effectively the entire environment. What it's letting us do in one image is measure the color of the environment as seen from any given point. We now have a record, a measurement of the light, of the color and the intensity of the light coming into the point where the chrome ball is.
I would think that the methodology of creating and master content through all those means, and then post-photographing it and editing it and all of that stuff, I think that will become common.
Animation's a difficult thing. We had a great animation team working on the Burly Brawl, and we had a ton of motion capture, but it's still hard to get them nuances in. I think it's going to be quite a while before people can truly see character animations being completely perfect.
We're so accustomed to seeing fights made editorially, where you see a cut to a guy throw a punch, and cut to a reaction, and cut back to a wide shot, and over the shoulder beat. It's all done through the editorial process, and these sequences are not done that way. There are no cuts. The camera is showing you what it wants you to see while it keeps on moving, and it's just a whole new way of seeing something occur.
Set and action.
Hello, Neil.
Who are you?
I am the architect. I created the Matrix.
Basically, it's a scene in which Neo meets the architect of the Matrix. It is a place that we've actually seen once before in the first movie, but only a little glimpse of it. It's implied that perhaps he was the one watching Neo during that interrogation.
So here we are back in that place.
Well, originally I went for a different part. I was told they wanted somebody to play, I don't know who it was a counselor, I think. I suddenly got a different script and was asked to read for this completely other part, which completely bamboozled me because, of course, I hadn't read the whole script. I only read the scenes that I was in, and I thought, what the hell is this? God/devil, the father of the Matrix, he says. And I thought, wow, this is good. Yeah, I can do that. I can do my cheap Orson Welles imitation and get paid for it.
This will be the 6th time we have destroyed it, and we are exceedingly efficient at it.
It's malevolent, not in a moral sense. It's malevolent in a, oh well, this formula doesn't work, let's scrub it out and try something else. It's mathematical malevolence. We shot it over a 3-day period. It was hell. Mainly because I sort of spoke virtually non-stop and Keanu every now and then would say a reaction, but I had to kind of carry the scene in terms of the dialogue.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. It was Keanu who sort of translated for me what the brothers were trying to say, for which I will remain eternally grateful. So between the brothers and Keanu, they've taught me how to act in a way that I didn't understand before. The key was to kind of just wipe everything clean and just imagine that I was like a blank blackboard. And then it made sense. I expected the center of the matrix to be a mathematical formula, some sort of mathematical construct, not humanized. I was very surprised that it turned out to be a person.
That was quicker than the others.
Others? How many others?
The whole belief system of being the one is shattered because I'm not the one, I'm the 6th one. So I learned that I don't know as much as I thought I did. And then I'm given the choice of humanity or Trinity. It's funny that Neo just goes for Trinity.
Neo's representing this fundamental volition, choice, decision, purpose, mission. Fighting against all odds, but he's now confronted with the embodiment, the exemplar of the determinism and the nihilism and the architect. Having to make that choice, love on the one hand, the alternative on the other, though, man. This is rich. It's rich.
But it's that whole thing of choice and that whole thing of, you know, I don't believe everything I hear. And I don't think that what everyone says to me, you know, is the truth, or it has to be the truth.
That was a complicated scene which was completely shot surrounded by blue screen. And then he has a bunch of monitors all around him, like hundreds and hundreds of monitors.
The images inside the monitors, of course, we're going to shoot, but they'll be shot in a, fairly unique way so that we can do tricks of perspective on the Neos in the monitors. Some basic camera feedback loops where we can travel from the center of the environment here through monitors back into the environment and out again if we choose. It's really like a limitless number of possibilities how you could actually go in and out of the space, particularly when everything that surrounds you is computer graphics to start with, so you can do interesting things. The assignments we had for littering the screens in the background really had to do with the folly of man. We just figured it was the short history of recorded images, so we took from newsreel, World War I or II through contemporary time, the sort of leaders and events that the audience that was watching The Matrix would be familiar with. We had leaders of all different sorts, not necessarily always evil, just those that seemed to have an effect in the world order through the 20th century. And it was just a hyper-informational delivery that really didn't matter if you really saw everything. It was really just about the architect's access to an infinity of information related to Neo's, consciousness of who he was.
Trinity.
First was the folly of man, and then it became Neo's folly and his preoccupation with Trinity and saving her, and the folly of an unreal life, a constructed life that he never led, and the fact that every moment of his life was a construction
of the architect or the machinery of the Matrix. And so he was demonstrating, I suppose, to Neo that it was all an elaborate fabrication to break his will, I suppose.
You can't control me! I'm gonna smash you to bits! I'm gonna fucking kill you! You can't make me do anything, like prick!
When Neo has problems with deciding which way he will choose, there's a certain level of, multiple personalities and responses from multiple personalities reacting to the architect's questions. So that one way of visualizing that might be with just more individualized Neos.
The one entity is being splintered so that his internal world is becoming externalized.
Right.
So it's all about different aspects of his selfhood.
I can say whatever I fucking want! I can say whatever I want! I can say whatever I fucking want! You old white prick! You old white prick! I'll smash this place to bits! See the whole place, like, I'll smash this place to bits! I'll smash this place to bits! I'll smash this place to fucking bits! I'll smash this place to fucking bits! You can't control me! You can't control me! You can't control me! You're dead! I'm gonna fucking kill you! Fucking kill you! Fucking dead! Fuck you! And
One of the only times you'll ever get to improv for Wachowskis.
I know. I couldn't believe it. Did you see how happy Keanu the actor got?
Whoa. Yeah, keep blowing.
For you guys, I'll do whoa with my pants off.
All right.